Hello students, in this lecture we are going to start with the chapter Light, Reflection and Refraction. In this particular lecture we will learn about what basically light is, what are the various phenomena shown by light, then we will study about images formed by light, and then we will move to spherical mirror and the terms related to spherical mirror. So what basically light is? Light is a form of energy which produces in us a sensation of vision. As we know, the sensation of vision is a very important sensation in human life. We see the world because we have a sensation of vision. We understand the world because of vision. So light is a very important form of energy. Gradually, when the scientists came to know more about light, they studied various phenomena involving light. These phenomena were reflection, refraction, interference, diffraction, and so on. As the science progressed, each of the phenomena was studied in detail, and the scientists came to some conclusion that light has a dual character. That is, it can travel in the form of particle as well as wave. Whenever the light travels in the form of particle and we study light, that is known as ray optics. And when we study light as waves, then that study is known as wave optics. In class 10th, we basically keep our focus to ray optics. That is, we will assume that light travels in the form of particles. And we'll study various phenomena, or more specifically, we would be studying two phenomena: reflection and refraction of light. First, we'll start with reflection of light. Now, what reflection of light is? You must have learned in earlier classes that reflection of light is just the bouncing back of light in the same medium after striking any obstacle. If the obstacle is opaque, the light will strike the obstacle and will return back in the same medium. This phenomena is known as reflection of light. Now, reflection of light is a very important phenomena in our daily life. We can't see light. You must remember this. We can't see light. We see objects because of reflection of light. I will repeat it again. We can't see light. Humans can't see any form of energy. They can feel its effect. So, as we have studied, the light is a form of energy, so we can't see light. We see the various objects because of some effect of light, and that effect of light is reflection of light. The light gets reflected back by almost all kind of medium, whether it is transparent or translucent. If you are able to see a glass window or a glass door, it means that the light is reflected by that glass even though it is transparent or translucent. Reflection of light even helps us in knowing the color of an object. As you know, the sunlight is also known as white light, and it is made up of 7 visible colors. There are many more colors, but they are not visible to a normal human eye. So we will talk about 7 visible colors. And the 7 visible colors are denoted by Vibgyor, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. Now, how do we see color? Let us take an example. As you can see, this line is written in red color. Now, why this appears red to me? So, when the light strikes this portion, all of the color are absorbed by this portion except red. It means the red colors get reflected back, and as red color reaches our eye, our brain indicates that these letters are written in red color. So we are able to see colors because of reflection of light. So reflection is a very important phenomena. Moving on, we will study types of reflection. There are two types of reflection: regular reflection and irregular reflection. There are some assumptions to be made. What are those assumptions? We will assume that these rays which are striking the reflecting surface are known as incident ray. We assume that light travels in the straight line. So we have drawn three parallel lines and these arrows are toward the reflecting surface, means these are the incident ray. We will assume that the light which is coming or striking in surface, which are known as incident ray, are parallel to each other. Let us assume this. Now, as you can see in the diagram, after reflection, these rays are again parallel to each other. If there is a such kind of reflection, then such reflection is known as regular reflection. If the reflected rays are parallel to each other, then it is known as regular reflection. It mostly occurs when the reflecting surface is perfectly smooth. In that case, the reflection is known as regular reflection. The second type of reflection is irregular reflection. In this, as you can see, as per our assumption, all the incident rays are parallel to each other, but after reflection, the reflected rays are not parallel to each other. As you can see, the surface is rough, so the reflected rays are not parallel to each other. Such type of reflection is known as irregular reflection. In the present world or in the surroundings, all of the reflections are mostly irregular reflection. As you can see, why it is so, as you can see, this is a field vision. It means if a person is standing in this particular area, he can see this surface. But in case of regular reflection, this field vision decreases. So if you are able to see any object kept at any corner of your room, it means that the type of reflection occurring over there is irregular reflection. So there are two types of reflection, regular and irregular. In regular, the reflected rays are parallel, and in case of irregular, the reflected rays are not parallel to each other after striking an obstacle. Now moving on, we'll study laws of reflection. We'll study those laws which governs reflection phenomena. There are two laws. Now let's study them. As you can see in this diagram, this is the reflecting surface. This line is indicating a ray of light which is coming toward the reflecting surface. So this will be known as incident ray. Incident ray. This line represents a reflected ray. This dotted line, which is perpendicular to the surface, it is an imaginary line, and this is known as normal. The angle between normal and incident ray is known as angle of incidence, and the angle between normal and the reflected ray is known as angle of reflection. So first law of reflection says that the angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection, whether the reflection is regular or irregular. This law is applicable to both types of reflection. Angle of incidence is known as is equal to angle of reflection. And you must note that the angle is always between the normal line and the incident ray, then it will be known as angle of incidence. And angle of reflection is the angle between reflected ray and the normal. You can't take this angle. This is not angle of reflection. This is angle of reflection. And similarly, this is angle of incidence. This is the first law of reflection. Now, second law says that the incident ray, the normal and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. What do you mean by same plane? Let's take this example. This is the plane. This paper is a plane in which the incident ray is moving. As the incident ray is moving in this plane, the reflected ray must also be in the same plane. It can't change its plane. It means that for this incident ray, you can't have this kind of reflected ray. If this pen behaves as a reflected ray, it is changing its plane. It is coming out of this plane of paper. It means it is changing its plane, and it is not possible. If the incident ray is in this plane, the reflected ray has to be in this plane. Let's take some other example. Let's say this is an incident ray. This pen indicates an incident ray. It means this surface is the plane in which the incident ray is moving. If this is an incident ray, if it strike this in this fashion, it will get reflected back in this plane only. It will not get reflected back like this or like this. It will get reflected back in this way only, as it can't change its plane. So the incident ray, the normal and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. They can't change its plane. So if this is the plane of incident ray, this has to be the plane of reflected ray. This is second law of reflection. Now moving on, we'll study image. You must have heard this word multiple times in your life, image. But what basically image is? It is a point of convergence or apparent point of divergence. Apparent point means it is not real. Of rays, here we are talking about light rays after they interact with a given optical instrument. The optical instrument can be anything. It can either be a mirror or it can be a lens. In both the cases, images are formed. Now let us understand this with the help of an example. Let us assume this is a mirror. I kept an object over here. For an object, there are two light rays moving. Let's say this is the first light ray moving, and it gets reflected back in the same direction. And this is the second incident ray. It got reflected back in this direction. So even though the reflected rays are not meeting, but if we produce them behind the mirror, they appear to meet at a point. This point will be known as image of this object. As I have written here, apparent point of divergence. As you can see, these two reflected rays are moving away from each other. It means they are diverging from each other. So if we move or if we produce them behind the mirror, they appear to meet at a point. They are not actually meeting, they appear to meet at a point, and that point will be known as image of this object. Moving on, we will study types of image. There are two types of images formed: real image and virtual image. I have given the difference between them for your better understanding. Real image, when the reflected rays actually meet at a point. In this diagram, they were not actually meeting at a point. We were assuming that they will meet. यहाँ actually meet नहीं कर रहे थे. हमने assume किया, पीछे उनको draw किया dotted form में, तो हमको लगा यहाँ पे meet करने चाहिए थे. Actually meet नहीं कर रहे. So in this case, the image formed will be virtual image. It can't be real image, because as per the definition of real image, the reflected rays must meet actually at a point. Whereas in case of virtual image, the reflected rays appear to meet at a point, and in this diagram they are appearing to meet at a point. So this image form will be virtual image. If they had met actually, then the image form would have been a real image. This is the definition. Now how to find out which image is real and which image is virtual practically? For this, you can, if the image formed is inverted in nature, that image will be a real image, and if the image formed is erect, then that image will be a virtual image. If you see yourself in a plane mirror, you see a erect image, so that image is a virtual image because it is erect in nature. If you take a spoon and you see your image on the back side of the spoon, you will find that a inverted image is formed. एक उल्टी image बनी हुई दिखाई देगी, and that will be a real image. So by this you can practically find out which image is real and which image is virtual. If it is inverted, the image will be real. If it is erect, the image will be virtual. One more thing, real images can be taken on screen, whereas virtual images can't be taken on screen. What do you mean by screen? See, if the reflected rays are actually meeting, it will meet outside the optical instrument, whether it is a lens or a mirror. अगर रेज आके लेंस से मिरर से टकरा के वापस आएंगी या आगे जाएंगी, लेट अस टेक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ मिरर. एक मिरर है, लाइट उसे टकरा के वापस आई, जो वापस आई दैट विल बी नोन एज रिफ्लेक्टेड रेज, एंड इफ इट इज एक्चुअली मीटिंग, इट विल मीट एट सम पॉइंट. So if I keep a paper or a piece of sheet at that point, we can say that the reflected rays will meet on that sheet of paper. If the reflected rays are meeting, then it is obvious that the image will be formed as per the definition. So in this case, the image will be formed on the piece of paper. So here the piece of paper acts as a screen, and we can say that the image can be taken on screen. So real images can be taken on screen, but virtual images can't be taken on screen. Let's take this example again. As the reflected rays are not meeting outside, we are assumed that they may meet inside or behind the mirror. So if I keep a screen over here, you won't be able to see any image because it is behind the mirror. If these rays would have met outside somewhere here, and if I kept a screen, the image could have been taken on the screen, and that image would have been real. So real images can be taken on screen, whereas virtual images can't be taken on screen. Now let us study some characteristics of image formed by a plane mirror. The first is image formed is erect. As the image formed is erect, it has to be virtual in nature as discussed earlier. The size of image is same as the size of object. You must have observed this practically, that the size of image is same as the size of object. Third, the image formed is laterally inverted. It means that when you see yourself in a screen, your left appears to be right, whereas your right appears to be left. This is known as lateral inversion. So in a plane mirror, the object is always laterally inverted. Fourth, most important thing, the distance of image from the mirror is same as the distance of object from the mirror. If you are standing far away from the mirror, you would have noticed that the image is formed way behind inside the mirror, and as you start moving towards the mirror, the image also starts moving towards the mirror. It means that the distance of image from the mirror is same as the distance of object from the mirror. These are some of the characteristics of image formed by a plane mirror. In this chapter, we are basically going to study about spherical mirrors. There are two types of spherical mirror, concave and convex. Now what basically spherical mirrors are? Spherical mirrors are basically curved mirror. And how they are formed? They are formed from a spherical glass. We cut a side portion of a sphere made up of glass and we paint on either side of the mirror or the glass, and it starts behaving as a mirror. So the concave mirror or the convex mirror are known as spherical mirror. Concave mirror, this is the shape. This dash portion indicates that the outer portion was painted and this inner portion behaves as the reflecting surface. And the concave mirror is basically converging in nature. What do you mean by converging nature? Converging means pass aana. So if more than 2 or 3 rays are incident on this mirror, the reflected rays will converge. Will converge means the reflected rays will be in such a direction that they will meet at a point. If they meet at a point, as we have discussed, an image will be formed. And since the reflected rays are actually meeting, so in this case the image formed will be real. So concave mirror is a type of mirror which is converging in nature and which mostly forms a real image which is inverted in nature. As you must have seen a spoon, if you see the spoon in the inner side, you must see or you must have seen that the image formed is inverted. And if the image formed is inverted, it means that that portion is behaving as a converging mirror or a concave mirror. An inverted image means the image formed is real. Similarly, the outer portion of the mirror or the spoon is in this shape. So this behaves as the second type of mirror, which is known as convex and which is diverging in nature. Diverging in nature means if the rays are incident on it, the reflected rays will move away from each other. They will not actually meet. But if you produce them behind the mirror, they will appear to meet. It means the image formed is virtual in nature. On the outer portion of a spoon, when you see, you would find that the image formed is erect. It means that the image formed is virtual, and this outer portion is the reflecting surface, and it is convex, which is diverging in nature, and the image formed by convex mirror are mostly virtual images. Now we'll study terms related to spherical mirror. As I have already told you, the spherical mirror are basically a portion of a sphere of glass. Let us assume that this is a sphere of glass. This is a small portion which I will cut, and if I paint it over here, it will become a convex mirror. And if I paint it over here, it will become a concave mirror. See, this is a thickness. The actual mirror is not this thick, but for understanding purpose, I have drawn a diagram to show this thickness. So this is a glass sphere from which this portion will be cut out, which will behave as a mirror. So what are the terms related? As the sphere must have some center, and that center is known as center of curvature. Similarly, this reflecting surface of the mirror will also have a center, which will be known as pole. The distance between the center of curvature and the pole, or you can say the radius of this spherical glass, is known as radius of curvature. If we draw a straight line, infinite line, a virtual line which is not real, which passes through the pole as well as center and is extended on both the sides, then this line is known as principal axis. Center of the sphere, center of curvature, center of reflecting surface of the mirror, pole. The radius of the sphere, radius of curvature, a imaginary line passing through center of curvature and pole, principal axis. Now as you can see, this dotted line which connects the two ends of the mirror, or you can say this is the basically diameter of the reflecting surface. This is known as aperture. So these are some of the terms which are related to spherical mirror, which would be helpful for us in finding out various position of images formed when the object is kept at different position in front of a mirror. So center of curvature, the center of glass sphere of which mirror is a part. Radius of curvature, the radius of spherical glass of which mirror is a part. Pole, the center of the reflecting surface of the mirror. Principal axis, as we have discussed, an imaginary line passing through pole and center and is extended on both sides, whereas aperture is the diameter of the reflecting surface of the mirror. So these are the some of the terms related to the spherical mirrors. Thank you students for listening patiently. In the next lecture, we'll study about principal focus, and then we'll move for ray diagrams or diagrams to show how various kinds or size of images are formed by a spherical mirror. Thank you very much.